Coming up on UT10 News, we have special coverage of Election Day.
And we'll look into how Ohio continues to play a major role in the presidential election.
Plus, our own Kate Pence is live at a polling station here on campus. Your news in 10 minutes starts now. Thanks for joining us. I'm Normandy Burrell.
And I'm Kennedy Ellison. Welcome to our special coverage of Election Day. We start with reporter Kate Pence out in the field.
Now, Kate, with over 100 million early votes already cast, what are today's last polling efforts looking like?
Well, Normandy, the doors here at Racket Hall have been open since 6:30 this morning. At that time, there were about 40 people waiting to vote. Now, the lines are relatively short, and with 12 voting machines, people are in and out in less than 10 minutes. 4 precincts are voting here today. With the closure of Scott Park due to COVID-19, the university was required to present a new voting location.
And Kate, how are the voters feeling?
Well, Kennedy, voters seem eager and excited to find out the results of the election. All registered voters in Ohio have until 7:30 tonight to cast their ballot. If you are in line by that time, you will be able to vote. You can find your polling location through a link on our website. Back to you in the studio, Kennedy.
Thank you, Kate. Voters headed to the polls early at record numbers in the past month. Reporter Gabrielle Huff looks into what that means for today's election.
As of November 1st, more than 90 million Americans voted early in the presidential election. This approaches 70% of all the ballots cast in the 2016 general election, which was approximately 136 million votes. Across the country, some states have seen more ballots cast early than total votes in the entire 2016 election.
I think that in Texas, you're going to see a situation where clearly the very large early vote is reflective of the way in which there's going to be a much higher voter turnout, probably than in any election in modern times.
If voters come out to the polls today at similar rates to early voters, this election is expected to have one of the highest voter turnouts in modern history. Reporting from the Lucas County Early Voting Center, this is Gabrielle Huff, UT10 News.
Ohio's legacy as a swing state plays a major role in the road to the White House. In this election, the candidates are fighting to the finish line. Former Vice President Joe Biden and President Donald Trump nearly tied in recent polls. The state is a toss-up, and both candidates have invested time visiting the state within the last month. At the beginning of October, the Trump campaign pulled television ads in Ohio, while Biden has increased ads.
The general mood of the country have swung in a way that Ohio is competitive, even though Ohio is a pretty reliable Republican state now.
Exit polls are indicating more registered Democrats have voted, but Republicans in large numbers are expected to hit the polls today. According to a 2016 U.S. election project, 4 out of 10 people who were eligible to vote did not. With today's key election, some college students are jumping at the chance to vote, while others are opting out.
My mom always encouraged me to vote. She was like, oh, women work so hard to vote. But it just is never something that I really cared about. Everybody promises something, and then they get into office, and it doesn't happen anyway. I don't want any of them in office.
It's very, very frustrating when I see someone say that they're not planning on voting. People don't realize what a privilege that is, to not be afraid that there are certain rights of yours that are going to be taken away.
The no vote numbers are projected to be less than 2016, but it is yet to be officially determined.
Republicans have invested millions of dollars into the Michigan Senate race to flip the seat and help maintain control of the Senate. The Senate Leadership Fund, a conservative PAC, has invested $14.6 million in ads since the beginning of October. Republican candidate John James is running against current Democratic Senator Gary Peters. With 35 seats up for election, Republicans have a greater risk of losing control.
Whoever wins the presidential election is immediately favored to lose the next midterm election. And so it's if Democrats say they won by only 1 seat, a majority, then the chances that they keep that for longer than 2 years would actually be pretty low.
According to 538.com, Democrats have an 80% chance of holding between 48 and 55 seats. As voters head to the polls, health and safety has become a key concern. Reporter Kiera Bivens examined the measures being taken to keep voters safe.
Locations like the Ohio Means Job Building and Joseph Dean Legion Post are making sure voices are heard safely. The Lucas County Board of Elections is taking all measures to ensure safe voting at the polls.
The gloves will be available also to anyone who wants to come in and vote. We're going to have lots of different types of hand sanitizer available.
Many people who have waited in line find Lucas County helpful for making it safe and comfortable for everybody.
I felt pretty comfortable. They did a good job. The first part of the line wasn't really distanced, but they did a good job marking everything out as we went in. And then once you got inside, they enforced it pretty well and kept everything really well marked out.
Those voting from home can drop their ballots off at ballot drop boxes or use curbside voting. Voting ends at 7:30 p.m. I'm Kira Bivens for UT 10 News.
Monaco adds that they are also providing face shields and masks to voters and poll workers. Now, speaking of masks, wearing one has become second nature for some. But as the election cycle comes to an end, the debate on masks continues. Reporter Emma Jones got student reactions on this issue.
The CDC first recommended the use of face coverings in public on April 3rd. Since then, 33 states, including Ohio, have issued statewide mask mandates. In a recent town hall, Joe Biden says if elected, he would require masks on all federal property and urge governors to use their authority to require masks in their jurisdictions.
So I think like a mask mandate is just another reason for people to be upset with our politicians, and I think that it's another way for them to have control over us.
President Trump has declined a national mask mandate to allow states to make their own decision in regard to the states' rights amendment.
I don't see why people wouldn't wear masks, because if they wind up doing nothing, it was a minor inconvenience, whereas if what the scientists are saying are right, then you could be saving somebody else's life, and I think it's selfish to not wear one.
According to the CDC, if 90% of Americans wore masks, 100,000 lives could be saved by the end of the year. I'm Emma Jones, UT 10 News.
President Trump and former Vice President Biden have spent $1.4 billion on their campaigns collectively. Trump has invested just under $131 million on Facebook ads alone, where Biden has spent just over $99 million. Biden has a $118 million cash advantage over Trump. Over 40% of both candidates' funding came from small individual donations.
Campaigns have already been spending a lot of money on lawyers, and we don't normally think of that as campaign spending, but a lot of money has gone that direction, which means that money's also going to get spent after Tuesday.
Currently, Biden has no campaign debt, compared to Trump, who is $1 million in debt, according to the Center of Responsive Politics.
After exploring phases 2 and 3 of Glass City Metro Park in last week's newscast, today we're going to look at the park's proposed budget. Riverwalk's infrastructure has a total budget of $210 million. $112 million will be paid for with the levy in issue 17 if it passes today. However, state and federal grants and fundraising are needed to complete the budget. $13 million has already been secured.
Over 40 million Americans don't have access to the internet, according to Broadband Now.
Deepa Bushball reports on how the digital divide is impacting the new normal in education.
Switching to online has been an obstacle for students from lower-income families, who often rely on public libraries for internet access. A study by the Pew Research Center says over 40% people from lower-income groups don't have access to the internet and a computer, as opposed to 3% in higher-income groups. Getting access to the internet was even harder during lockdown.
During the pandemic, we had our Wi-Fi was actually extended out into the parking lot. So although our buildings were closed at that time, people were still able to use our Wi-Fi.
Local students are getting help from a partnership between Buckeye Broadband and Toledo Public Schools. Buckeye is offering free net and ad-based internet service at no cost.
The service will be offered for the remaining school year. I'm Deepa Bhushbal, UT 10 News.
Don't forget to get out and vote. Have you voted yet, Kennedy?
Yes, I actually voted absentee last week. Nice. How about you, Normandy?
You know, today I woke up early, got to the poll around 6:25, waited about an hour and 10 minutes to get into the polling center, got my vote in, and I hope you guys do too. That's it for UT 10 News. For Kennedy Ellison and the entire UT 10 News crew, I'm Normandy Burrell. Have a great week.